Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'll be sharing 5 deeply disturbing childhood trauma stories that still haunt the people who lived through them. These are real experiences that left permanent scars on innocent minds. Make sure to like the video and leave a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. That way, you won't miss any of our stories again. Now let's begin. My name is Sarah, and I need to tell you about the summer I turned 7. The summer that taught me not all monsters hide under beds. My parents hired a babysitter named Carol. She was in her late 50s, came highly recommended by our neighbors, and had this grandmother-like smile that made my mom trust her instantly. I remember my first day alone with her. My parents kissed me goodbye, and the moment the car disappeared down the street, Carol's smile vanished. "We're going to play a game," she said, her voice suddenly flat and emotionless. "It's called the quiet game." She led me to our basement. I'd always hated that basement. The single bulb that hung from the ceiling barely pushed back the shadows, and it smelled like damp earth and something else, something rotten. Carol pointed to a small wooden chair in the corner. "Sit," she commanded. "If you make a single sound, you lose. And children who lose, well, they don't want to know what happens to them." I sat in that chair for what felt like hours. The basement was cold, and I could hear things moving in the darkness beyond the light's reach. Scratching sounds, skittering. My legs went numb. I needed to use the bathroom so badly that tears streamed down my face, but I didn't make a sound. That's when I heard it. A whimper. Soft, barely audible, coming from the far corner of the basement where the light couldn't reach. It sounded like a child. "You hear that?" Carol whispered, suddenly appearing behind me. Her breath was hot against my ear. "That's what happens to children who don't follow the rules. She's been down here for 3 days now." My heart stopped. She couldn't be serious. She couldn't. Her name was Emma. Her parents think she ran away. I broke. I screamed and ran for the stairs, my 7-year-old legs pumping as fast as they could. Carol grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin, but pure terror gave me strength I didn't know I had. I kicked her shin and bolted up the stairs, out the front door, and ran to our neighbor's house, screaming and sobbing. The police came. They searched our basement. They found nothing. No little girl. No chains. No evidence anyone had ever been kept down there. Carol was questioned and released. She claimed I had an overactive imagination and that she'd only been playing a harmless game to keep me entertained. But here's what still keeps me awake at night. 23 years later, last month, I was going through old newspapers for a genealogy project. I found an article from 3 months before Carol babysat me. Local girl, Emma Rodriguez, 6, missing. Parents desperate for answers. There was a photo. Emma had blonde pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. The article mentioned that Emma's babysitter was the last person to see her alive. The babysitter's name wasn't released due to lack of evidence. I showed the article to my mother. She went pale and whispered. Carol's last name was Rodriguez. She said she'd lost her granddaughter that year, but she never wanted to talk about it. I still don't know what I heard in that basement, but sometimes, late at night, I can still hear Emma's whimper echoing in my mind. My name is Marcus. When I was 9 years old, I discovered something in our family photo albums that I was never supposed to see. It started innocently enough. I was homesick from school, bored out of my mind, and decided to look through the old photo albums my mom kept in the hall closet. Baby pictures, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, normal stuff. Then I noticed him, in the background of a photo from my 4th birthday party. Standing behind the other kids was a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, wearing a dark suit, and he was smiling directly at the camera. More specifically, he was smiling at me. I flipped through more albums. There he was again. My first day of kindergarten, standing across the street. A family trip to the beach. Sitting on a bench in the distant background. My little sister's baptism. In the church parking lot, visible through a window. Every single major event in my childhood, he was there. Always in the background. Always smiling that same cold smile. Always watching me. My hands started shaking. I ran to my mom and showed her the photos. The color drained from her face. "Where did you find these?" she whispered. "In the closet." "Mom, who is he?" She sat down, and I'd never seen her look so terrified. "I need you to listen very carefully, Marcus. That man, we don't talk about him. We never talk about him. Do you understand? But he's the reason we moved 3 times before you started school. He's the reason we have deadbolts on every door and an alarm system. He's the reason your father sleeps with a gun in the nightstand." My mother took the albums and locked them away, but she finally told me the truth. Before I was born, my mother had escaped from an abusive relationship. The man in the photos was her ex-boyfriend. He'd become obsessed with her, stalked her for years. When I was born, his obsession transferred to me. He'd somehow tracked us down repeatedly. He'd appear at events, always keeping just enough distance to avoid restraining orders, always careful never to technically break any laws. He'd send gifts to the house, toys, cards, photos of me that he'd taken without our knowledge. The police said they couldn't do anything unless he made a direct threat. My mom explained, tears streaming down her face. He was too smart, too careful. He knew exactly how far he could push without getting arrested. "Where is he now?" I asked. My mother's next words made my blood freeze. "We don't know. He disappeared 6 months ago. That's what scares me most. We don't know where he is or why he stopped." That conversation happened 14 years ago. I'm 23 now, living in my own apartment across the country. Last week, I came home to find a package at my door. Inside was a photo album. It was filled with pictures of me from the past 5 years. Me at college graduation, me at my first job, me on dates, me grocery shopping last Tuesday. Every photo featured me as the focus. And in every single photo, somewhere in the background, barely visible if you don't know to look for him, he's there, still watching, still smiling. I've filed police reports. I've moved twice since then, but I know it won't matter. He's been watching me my entire life, and I don't think he's ever going to stop. My name is Jennifer, and when I was 8 years old, I walked into the wrong house and discovered something that still gives me nightmares. I lived in a typical suburban neighborhood where all the houses looked basically the same. Split-level ranches, beige or gray, small front lawns. My best friend, Katie, lived 4 houses down from me, and I'd walked to her house hundreds of times. That day, I was bringing over a doll I'd borrowed. It was getting dark, that weird twilight time when everything looks slightly off. I walked up to what I thought was Katie's house and tried the front door. It was unlocked. "Katie," I called out, stepping inside. The layout was exactly like Katie's house. Same entryway, same stairs. But something felt wrong. The air was too cold, too still, and there was a smell, copper and something sweet and rotten. "Katie," I called again, my voice smaller now. I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps, slow and heavy. Relief flooded through me. Katie's dad must be home. But then I noticed the photos on the wall. These weren't Katie's family. These were strangers. My heart started pounding. I'd walked into a stranger's house. I turned to leave, but the footsteps upstairs had reached the top of the stairs. A man's voice called down, thick and slurred. "Daddy's home, sweetheart. Did you miss me?" I froze. Through the railing, I could see his legs descending the stairs. He was dragging something. Each step made a wet, sliding sound. Something inside me screamed to run, and I listened. I bolted for the door just as the man reached the bottom of the stairs. I saw his face for only a second, pale, sweating, eyes too wide, before I was out the door and sprinting down the street. I didn't stop running until I reached my actual house. I was hysterical, barely able to explain to my parents what happened. They called the police immediately. The police surrounded the house I'd entered, number 47, 2 doors down from Katie's at number 51. They found the front door still open, lights on, and they found what the man had been dragging down the stairs. His wife, or what remained of her. She'd been dead for 3 days, killed in a rage after asking for a divorce. The man had been living in the house with her body, slipping deeper into psychosis, having conversations with her corpse. When the police arrested him, he kept asking about his daughter. "Where's my sweetheart? She just came home. I heard her. Where did she go?" The man didn't have a daughter. The detective told my parents that if I had answered when he called out, if I'd stayed even 10 seconds longer, they believe he would have killed me. In his broken mind, I would have become the daughter he'd always wanted, at least until reality set in again. But here's the part that still haunts me most. Years later, in college, I was talking to a therapist about this trauma. I mentioned the detail about the front door being unlocked. "You said you tried the front door and it opened?" she asked. "Yes." "Jennifer, were you turning the knob or pulling it?" I went cold. I'd pushed the door open. I'd been so familiar with Katie's house that I hadn't even tested if it was locked. The detective's report stated that the front door was locked when police arrived. They had to use the key the man gave them, which means somehow, in those few seconds between me running out and the police arriving, someone had locked the door behind me. The man was arrested upstairs, in the bedroom with his wife's body. He never came down. So who locked that door? To this day, I have no answer, and I'm not sure I want one. My name is David. When I was 6 years old, I made a friend at the playground who taught me that some things are better left alone. There was a playground at the end of my street that I'd go to every day after school. My mom could see it from our kitchen window, so she let me play there alone as long as I stayed visible. One afternoon, a boy around my age appeared. He was wearing old-fashioned clothes, like the kind you see in vintage photographs, and he was sitting alone on the swings, not moving. "Want to play?" I asked him. He looked up, and his eyes were the palest blue I'd ever seen, almost colorless. He smiled and nodded. We played for hours. Tag, hide and seek, all the normal playground games. But there was something off about him. He never got tired, never got sweaty or out of breath, and he was impossibly good at hiding. I could never find him until he wanted to be found. "What's your name?" I finally asked. "Thomas," he said. "I've been waiting for a friend for a very long time." "Where do you live?" He pointed past the playground to the old cemetery on the hill. I laughed nervously. "You live near the cemetery?" "In it," he corrected. His pale eyes never blinked. "Want to see?" Every instinct told me to say no, but Thomas had already started walking, and for some reason I still can't explain, I followed him. The cemetery was overgrown. Many of the headstones were so old the names had worn away. Thomas led me deep into the rows of graves, moving with purpose, until he stopped at a small headstone. "This is me," he said simply. I looked at the headstone. The name read, Thomas Whitmore, 1956 to 1962, beloved son. The dates made no sense to my 6-year-old brain, but I knew something was very wrong. That's not funny," I whispered. "I died on the playground," Thomas said, his voice empty of emotion. "I fell from the tall slide, broke my neck. I've been alone ever since. But you're my friend now, David. You'll play with me forever." He reached for my hand, and his fingers were ice cold. I screamed and ran, tearing through the cemetery, branches scratching my face, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I didn't stop until I was home, slamming the door behind me. My mother found me sobbing on the floor. "What happened?" she demanded. I told her everything. About Thomas, about the grave, about his cold hand. My father went to the cemetery with me the next day. We found the headstone exactly where I remembered it. Thomas Whitmore, 1956 to 1962. My dad asked around the neighborhood. An elderly neighbor remembered the incident. A little boy had indeed died at that playground in 1962, before they'd updated the safety regulations. He'd fallen from the old metal slide, back when the playground equipment was built over concrete instead of soft mulch. That was over 30 years ago, my dad said. "You couldn't have known about that, son." I never went back to that playground. My parents eventually agreed to let me play at a different park. But here's what nobody believed me about. Here's the part that still wakes me up screaming. When I ran from Thomas, I looked back once. He was standing at the cemetery entrance, watching me with those pale, unblinking eyes. And behind him, I saw the children, dozens of them, all wearing old-fashioned clothes, all pale and translucent in the fading light. They were all holding hands, forming a circle around the playground, waiting for children who would play with them, children who would follow them into the cemetery, children who would become their friends forever. I'm 38 years old now. Last week, I drove past that old neighborhood. The playground is still there, though updated with modern equipment. And I saw a little boy, maybe 6 years old, sitting alone on the swings. He was wearing old-fashioned clothes, and he was looking directly at me with pale, colorless eyes. Some friendships, I've learned, never end, even when they should. My name is Amanda, and when I was 10 years old, my older sister taught me a game that opened a door I've never been able to close. My sister Rachel was 15 and going through her edgy phase. She was obsessed with scary stories, urban legends, and paranormal stuff. One night during a sleepover at our house, she gathered me and her friends in the bathroom for what she called the mirror game. You stare into the mirror in the dark, Rachel explained, lighting candles around the bathroom. You say your name 3 times, slowly, and then you see your true self, the version of you that exists in the mirror world. Her friends giggled nervously. I thought it was stupid, but I was desperate to seem cool to my older sister and her friends. Rachel turned off the lights. The bathroom was only lit by 3 candles, making shadows dance across the walls. I stood in front of the mirror, my face barely visible in the flickering light. "Amanda," I said. "Amanda." I paused, my heart beating faster. "Amanda." At first, nothing happened. Rachel's friends were whispering behind me. I started to turn away, embarrassed. Then my reflection blinked. I hadn't blinked. I froze, staring at my reflection. She had smiled at me, but I wasn't smiling. "Guys," I whispered. "Something's..." My reflection raised her hand and pressed it against the mirror from the inside. Her mouth moved, and even though there was no sound, I could read her lips clearly. "Let me out." I screamed and stumbled backward. Rachel flipped on the lights, and suddenly everything was normal. My reflection was just my reflection again, mimicking my movements exactly. Rachel and her friends laughed, thinking I was playing along with the game. But I wasn't. I'd seen what I'd seen. "That's not funny, Amanda," Rachel said. "You scared everyone." I never told them what really happened. They wouldn't have believed me. Hell, I barely believed it myself. But things changed after that night. I started noticing my reflection, lagging, just slightly. I'd turn my head, and my reflection would turn a fraction of a second later. I'd raise my hand, and my reflection would follow just a moment too slow. At night, I'd catch movement in the mirror from the corner of my eye. When I'd look directly at it, everything would be normal. I covered every mirror in my bedroom with sheets. My parents thought I was going through a phase. Rachel thought I was being dramatic. 2 weeks after the game, I woke up at 3 a.m. to a tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from my dresser mirror, the one I'd covered with a sheet. The sheet had been pulled aside, and in the mirror, I saw myself. But this version of me was pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked sick, dying. She pressed both hands against the glass from inside the mirror and mouthed those same words. "Let me out." I couldn't move, couldn't scream. She started pushing harder against the glass, and I swear I could see the mirror beginning to bow outward, like it was made of plastic instead of glass. "Please." I finally heard her whisper, her voice distant and echoing. "She's keeping me here. She's taking my place. Let me out. I want to come home." Then I understood the horrible truth. The thing in the mirror wasn't trying to get out. I was looking at the real Amanda. I was the thing that had gotten out. I looked down at my hands. They seemed solid enough. I touched my face, my arms. Everything felt real. But I didn't remember anything before the mirror game. I couldn't remember what I'd had for breakfast that morning, or what my teacher's name was, or the name of my dog who died when I was 7. The girl in the mirror knew all those things. I could see it in her desperate, knowing eyes. She was the one who belonged here, and I was the reflection that had escaped. I smashed that mirror with my desk lamp. shattering it into hundreds of pieces. My parents grounded me for a month. Rachel called me insane, but I still saw her. In every reflective surface. In windows, in polished tables, in puddles on the street. The real Amanda, trapped in the mirror world, getting paler and weaker, staring out at me with accusing eyes. That was 18 years ago. I'm 28 now. I've destroyed every mirror I've owned. I avoid reflective surfaces. I cross the street when I see store windows. But last night, I made a mistake. I was washing my hands in a public restroom. The mirror above the sink was unavoidable. I looked up. She was there, the real Amanda. But she wasn't alone anymore. Behind her in the mirror world, I saw hundreds of faces. Thousands. All pressed against the glass. All the people who'd played the mirror game. All the real people. Trapped while their reflections lived their lives. And at the very front, the real Amanda smiled. Not a friendly smile. A knowing smile. Because this time, she wasn't alone. She had an army. I'm writing this as a warning. If anyone has ever taught you a mirror game, no matter what it's called or what the rules are, don't play it. Because right now, as you read this, check your reflection. Check if it moves exactly when you move. Check if it's really looking at what you're looking at. Check if the smile on your reflection's face matches the expression you're actually making. Because if it doesn't, you might not be who you think you are. Let me out. Those were 5 true childhood trauma stories that continue to haunt the people who lived through them. These experiences shaped their lives in ways they never could have imagined. If you enjoyed tonight's stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below and let me know which story disturbed you the most. And remember, some childhood memories are better left forgotten. Until next time, stay safe out there.